Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going way back.
Way back.
Yeah, over 2,000 years to ancient Greece to explore a philosopher you might only think you know.
That's right.
Democritus. You've definitely heard about atoms.
Yeah.
But get this.
Yeah.
He's the guy who first theorized them.
Pretty amazing, huh?
And trust me, there's a lot more to Democritus than just those tiny particles.
Oh, yeah. A lot more.
So much more.
What's really fascinating is that Democritus didn't have labs or microscopes like we do today.
Yeah.
He came to his atomic theory using logic, observation, and deep thought.
That just blows my mind to think about.
It is pretty remarkable.
So how did this guy living so long ago come up with such a groundbreaking concept?
Well, to understand Democritus, we have to start with his origins.
Okay.
He was born in Abdera, Thrace, a place not exactly known for its brilliant thinkers.
Really?
In fact, it had a bit of a reputation for, well, let's just say intellectual prowess wasn't their strong suit.
So not exactly the philosophical hub of ancient Greece.
Exactly, which makes it even more incredible that Democritus came from there and developed such revolutionary ideas.
Wow.
Talk about a unique perspective, and we're talking about a guy who wrote nearly 80 treatises on all sorts of topics.
Oh, yeah.
He was a prolific writer. Sadly, most of his original work is lost to us.
So how do we even know about his ideas?
We mostly rely on references from other philosophers,
Oh, okay.
including some who saw him as a rival, like Aristotle.
Oh.
And, it's a shame we lost so much of his writing because Democritus wasn't just focused on atoms.
Oh.
He explored everything from ethics and politics to mathematics, music, and the cosmos.
Wow. A true polymath.
He was.
But let's dive into what he's most famous for. The atomic theory.
Okay.
Didn't he believe everything in the universe was made up of these tiny indivisible things called atoms?
That's the core idea. He believed the universe is composed of atoms, these tiny particles, and the void, which is the empty space they move through.
Okay.
Now, the concept of atoms wasn't entirely original to Democritus. His mentor, Leucippus, also contributed. But it's hard to separate their ideas at this point.
Okay, so tiny particles moving through empty space. Why was that so groundbreaking back then?
It completely challenged the prevailing philosophical views. Thinkers like Parmenides and Zeno believed in a single, unchanging reality.
Uh-huh.
To them, motion was an illusion.
Wait, they thought everything was just frozen.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
They believed in a unified being that couldn't be divided or changed.
Wow.
But Democritus, being the keen observer he was, saw things differently. He saw the world constantly moving, changing, interacting.
Right.
To him, our senses provided evidence of a world in constant motion, not an illusion.
So he used what he observed in the world around him to come up with this idea of atoms in the void,
That's right.
even though he couldn't see them.
Exactly.
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
There's a quote from him that I love. By convention, sweet is sweet. By convention, bitter is bitter. By convention, hot is hot. By convention, cold is cold. By convention, color is color. But in reality, there are atoms and the void. What do you think he meant by that?
That's a fantastic quote, and it gets right to the heart of his philosophy.
Yeah.
What he's saying is that our sensory experiences, things like taste, temperature, color, are subjective.
Right.
True reality, according to him, lies in the underlying atomic structure of the universe.
Huh.
It's a remarkably modern idea for its time.
It's truly mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is.
A philosopher from ancient Greece coming up with an idea that foreshadows modern atomic theory.
Absolutely. But we have to be careful not to overstate the similarities.
Oh, okay.
Democritus's atoms were philosophical concepts, not scientific entities in the way we understand them today.
Right. He didn't have the tools or the scientific method to study them like we do now.
Exactly. Modern atoms, as we know, are not truly indivisible.
Right.
They're made up of even smaller particles. Protons, neutrons, and electrons, and they behave according to the laws of quantum mechanics, something completely beyond Democritus's world.
So he gets points for incredible insight, but not necessarily for scientific accuracy by today's standards.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Okay, I have to ask.
Yeah.
What's up with the nickname, the Laughing Philosopher? Why was he always so cheerful?
That's a great question, and there are different interpretations. Some believe it was because he found humor in the foibles of human nature. Others suggest it reflected his philosophical outlook.
Oh, interesting.
Perhaps a belief in finding joy in the simple things, even amidst the vastness of the universe.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Finding joy in the simple things, even when pondering the complexities of the universe. I mean, imagine coming up with the idea of atoms back then. That must have been exhilarating.
Absolutely. And speaking of exhilarating, there's a fantastic anecdote about Democritus
Oh, really?
that really highlights his priorities. Apparently, he was offered the chance to become the king of Persia.
No way. He could have been king.
He could have, but he turned it down. He said he'd rather discover a single scientific explanation than rule an entire empire.
Wow, talk about dedication to knowledge. That really shows where his passions lay.
It truly underscores his drive to understand the world around him. And remember, this wasn't limited to just physics. He delved into mathematics, too.
Oh, right. He was working on understanding the volume of cones and pyramids, wasn't he?
He was.
What's the story there?
Well, according to Archimedes, Democritus made some important observations about the relationship between cones and cylinders in pyramids and prisms.
Okay.
He was grappling with concepts that would later form the foundation of calculus.
It's amazing to think that someone without any of the mathematical tools we have today could come so close to those kinds of insights.
Right.
It makes you wonder what other mathematical secrets he might have unlocked. But Democritus wasn't just about atoms and math.
Right.
He also explored ethics. He had some pretty strong opinions about happiness and living a good life.
Absolutely. He placed the pursuit of happiness at the center of moral philosophy, something many later thinkers would adopt. But his ideas on how to achieve that happiness weren't always conventional.
You're right, like his views on having children, let's just say he wasn't the type to throw a baby shower.
That's one way to put it. He believed it was actually better not to have children. He argued that raising them well was incredibly difficult and that seeing them grow up badly was the most painful experience imaginable.
Wow.
It's a pretty bleak perspective, but it does highlight his focus on avoiding suffering and achieving inner peace.
He definitely wasn't sugarcoating things. But he also had some really insightful thoughts on good and evil, right?
Yeah.
What were those about?
He believed that ignorance was the root cause of wrongdoing,
Okay.
and that a truly good person not only refrains from doing bad things, but doesn't even desire to do them in the first place.
That's a high bar to set.
Yeah.
But it speaks to how deeply he thought about morality. And we can't forget his work on aesthetics.
Right.
The philosophy of beauty and art. What do we know about that?
While very little of his work on aesthetics survives, ancient sources indicate that he wrote extensively on poetry and the fine arts. It's fascinating because he predates thinkers like Aristotle, who are typically associated with aesthetics.
So a pioneer in multiple fields. It's mind-boggling how one person could delve so deeply into so many different areas.
It really speaks to the power of curiosity and a thirst for knowledge. You know, as we've been exploring Democritus's life and work, I keep coming back to how his cheerful disposition contrasts with some of his more serious, even bleak philosophical ideas. How do you reconcile those two sides?
It's fascinating, right? Maybe his cheerfulness wasn't just about finding humor in the world, but also about embracing the beauty and wonder of existence, even in the face of its complexities and challenges. Remember, he believed in a universe made up of countless atoms in constant motion, colliding and interacting.
Yes. Perhaps his laughter was a way of acknowledging the chaotic beauty of it all.
Or maybe he just had a really great sense of humor. We may never know for sure, but it's a good reminder that even great thinkers are complex individuals.
Exactly. And even though so much of Democritus's work is lost, the fragments we do have offer a glimpse into the mind of a truly remarkable individual.
Someone who, through observation and reason, envisioned a universe made up of these tiny, indivisible particles centuries before modern science could confirm it.
And someone who, despite his profound insights into the nature of reality, never seemed to lose his sense of wonder and joy.
So what does this all mean for us today as we navigate our own complex world? What can we take away from Democritus's life and work?
I think Democritus's life and work offer us a valuable lesson. They remind us of the power of curiosity, critical thinking, and a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom.
And they remind us that the pursuit of knowledge and happiness can go hand in hand, that even in a world that can sometimes seem chaotic and unpredictable, there's always beauty and wonder to be found.
Exactly. It's all about perspective and maybe a little bit of laughter along the way.
I love that. A little laughter goes a long way.
Yeah.
It's funny because we often think of those ancient philosophers as being so serious, but Democritus shows us that intellectual curiosity and a joyful spirit aren't mutually exclusive. They might actually be the perfect recipe for unlocking the secrets of the universe.
I couldn't agree more. You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into Democritus, I'm struck by how influential his ideas were, even though they weren't entirely accurate by today's standards.
Right. It's like he planted a seed that grew into our modern atomic theory.
Exactly. His atomic hypothesis, even with its limitations, laid the groundwork for centuries of scientific inquiry. It's a testament to the enduring power of human thought and our innate desire to understand the world around us.
It's incredibly inspiring if Democritus could conceive of atoms without any of the technology we have today. Just imagine what we might be on the verge of discovering now, what seemingly impossible ideas are out there just waiting to be unearthed.
It's an exciting thought, and it underscores the importance of keeping an open mind, being willing to question our assumptions, and never losing that spark of curiosity that drives us to explore the unknown.
Well said. And on that note, I want to thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the life and work of Democritus,
Yeah.
the lasting philosopher who dared to imagine a world made of atoms. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling incredibly energized and inspired to keep learning and exploring. Who knows what amazing discoveries await us. And maybe we'll do it all with a smile on our faces, just like Democritus. Thanks for listening.